Hey, we're live. Hello, Louis. Thank you for your messages. I'm so glad you're enjoying origami too. Me too. I love it. What a great thing to do in this time. I think most of all, we've been struggling with our lack of freedom, haven't we, during lockdown? It's very hard, I think, for the mind. I think also it's a little bit lacking structure. So there's something very pleasing about making your own structures. And it turns out, as we know, with a piece of paper, the possibilities are endless. So once you get going, it can feel rather exciting because there are so many things you can do. So I usually have a good old chat for 5 minutes just to let people turn up. All of these films, these folds that I'm doing are dedicated to my colleagues who work in UCH, a hospital in London. And at the moment, I'm working remote. Hello, Eric. I'm doing that obviously because that's the best thing to do for now to help protect everyone. It's really hard, isn't it, being away from others? And I'm also encouraging colleagues to take some time out for their well-being. But these films are very much for everybody. And actually, by keeping happy at home, you are helping to support the NHS to help support healthcare workers around the world. So it's a way that we can show we care and keep ourselves happy, bring a bit of community. Hello, hello. It's lovely to have you here, Louis, as well. You're welcome to our fold. We've been regularly folding every week since lockdown. I think I did actually start this in March. Can you believe it? I mean, it's almost a year. Sometimes it's best not to think about these things too much, isn't it? But somehow I've been trying to bring along a different fold each week, mostly traditional. Some cases I do try and find out who made things. Mostly I have also shared folds where I've mostly myself learnt more from YouTube videos than books. I find diagrams quite hard. So I've mostly shared folds where there's already lots of videos and of course crediting, so I'm not bringing things that are new, which obviously then you should definitely ask permission. But I've really tried to credit. It's quite hard though because this is every week, so I'm doing my very best. I'm not perfect, but I'm not very much thanking people, and I hope it's a really nice thing to share. I know it makes a difference to me, and I would otherwise be doing this in person. It's my only way I can work at the moment is to do it remote. So I'm a bit more public than I would otherwise be or looking to be. But I'm doing this because I know it can help people, and that's the reason that I'm offering it. So, and it's lovely to bring the sense of community, isn't it? That we're here together, that we can do something lovely, just focus and forget everything else and find real joy. Now, I've brought something along a bit different this week because actually a little while back, I learned actually from Nick Robinson, and it turns out from someone called Susanna Arashino, who I love this fold, who's apparently from Argentina and apparently partly Japanese in descent. And she would apparently teach children origami and encourage others. So it was really lovely to hear from somebody else that that's what she would do. She's since sadly passed away. But this is a fold that she came up with, which I absolutely love. Beautiful triangle, this pleated triangle. And I learned this a while back, and actually I was creating 100 origami wellbeing packs for my colleagues working directly with patients, most of whom with COVID. And I made, we've got a lovely origami leaflet. This, you can see the symbol in the background, the Made with Glove project. And I folded a piece for each person. And they had to all be pieces which are really lovely, but also flat, so I could send them in the post. This was one out of many folds that I did. So I included that. But I found myself rather fascinated by the triangle. And then through some resources that I'm making at the moment. Hello, Junid. Through some resources that I'm making at the moment. I'm a scientist originally. For me, my inspiration actually always comes from science, and that's particularly why I found the origami fascinating. Our body, our DNA is encodes proteins long, like they're almost like beads, and it's the way that they fold up that makes shapes. And so I see an awful lot of parallel with the kind of forces in our body and how things work. So it's my own, I guess, whatever it is you're interested, you'll start to see the relevance of origami. So for me, it's about science, but it is actually art and science together. So at the moment, I'm working on some resources which I can't wait to share for the Royal College of Pathologists, and it's about viruses and vaccines, celebrating the science, learning about the virus more, and also how vaccines work. So, amongst the resources, I was doing some drawings as well as a little bit of origami in there as well. Includes a syringe that I've invented. So, I'm quite excited about that. I hope as many people will pass it on and do what they want with it as possible. It'd be really nice. But in there, I was doing some drawings of the spike protein, the spike on the virus. We think of these spiky viruses, and when you look down on a spike, it's this lovely, lovely shape. It's a perfect equilateral triangle. And I was just struck by what a gorgeous shape. And so I've been quite fascinated and wanting to play with triangles. So I kind of thought it would be fun just to make finding I love making equilateral triangles and then seeing where the folds take me. So I have been making up all my own folds. So I've got 19 so far, and there's probably, well, there'll be endless ones that you can do. So I found it just sparked my creativity because the square is probably the best shape. Not to disagree with that, because there's so many possibilities that can sometimes feel a hindrance. So I found using something a bit different out of the normal can just help liberate you. So I found it really liberating and exciting to play with the triangle. And so what I did was my first 9 that I'd found, I made a little wheel, a coloured wheel of all the different folds, and asked people to vote. And then the top 3 I'm going to then show you. So this was the top 3. This absolutely stood out for people, which I think is a very good choice. So it's got a really lovely kind of turn to it, and it all locks together very neatly. I'm sure if you spent time with the equilateral triangle, you would find these as well. But this is another one which was voted for. So we're going to do all of these. And then this one, which is a simpler one, but all lovely. So we're going to do these 3, but I want you actually to make 4 triangles, and then the 4th one I want you to play with and see what you find. So also, I know I've said that I've been inspired myself by the spike protein, but actually nature, you can see so many beautiful equilateral triangles. So I was amazed outside. I started seeing bulbs and realizing that crocuses are perfect equilateral triangles. Snowdrops, of course, have symmetry 3. So I started folding some and then colouring them in, inspired by spring. So maybe you'll think of spring flowers as well. Great, right? I've chatted more than usual. You can see I'm inspired when I talk about science. So I am a scientist. Right, card decorations, yes. And it would really love it if at the end you start experimenting. So I'm calling all of this origami variants, because I know we're hearing about the coronavirus variants, and it's actually about changes in the folding of that spike that will create some of the variations. So I thought we could all make our own variants. And it's kind of about making sense of the world art, isn't it? So see what you discover. People have started sharing some brilliant folds that they've discovered, and I hope it will unleash your creativity, because I've mostly followed other people's folds, and actually that's a wonderful thing, because to me origami is that culture of you learn something and you pass it on, transmission in a good way. But actually maybe you can discover things yourself. I'm just passing on all of mine because that's what I want to do. So a piece of paper, and I'm going to make 4 squares, and then I will show you how to make a triangle. I think by the sound of it, there's a few ways that you can make a triangle. I'm going to show you how I've learned. So yes, join me. I'm going to make a big square for myself first of all. Take a corner. If you've got your own origami paper, then you can just sit back, pause for a moment. I'm just going to make a big square. And grab yourself 4 sheets of paper. Going to remove this rectangle, turning it over, and bring it back. Oh, yes, well, I suppose hexagons are double the amount of fun. I don't know. Well, no, 6 times the amount of fun. The triangles. Just trying to think of them together. Yeah. Just fun playing with different shapes. I think there's something very dynamic about the triangles. And actually talking the hexagon, I found a moment of simple delight with a As I said, I've made 19 so far, but Stephen, this is for you. Nice little hexagon. So that was an equilateral triangle, and I played, and that emerged, which I absolutely love. I can imagine this is kind of 60s or space age sort of piece of jewelry. It's yeah, it's quite simple. You'd soon discover that it's a really nice one. It just it's lovely when you find that surprise on the paper. So I'm simply going to make 4 squares. So if you're using A4, join me. Otherwise, grab yourself 4 pieces of origami paper. Oh, thanks, everyone. Group of us. Let's get my 4 squares, and then I'll show you how I've been making my triangles. Obviously, you could play around with the right angle triangle, but that's got a whole different symmetry in itself. So I like the equilateral. It's that lovely balance of forces, and of course, a lot of the modular origami is building, and it's all about those triangular forces again. So that's something I like anyway. Okay, so with your square, we're going to do a little kind of fold up halfway there and halfway there. So we're just going to do that. I'll show you. Hello, folding things. Thanks for joining us. So I'm just going to ignore that diagonal line. I'm just going to do a little fold in half, and I'm just doing a line at one side, one edge there. There we go. And then I'm going to do another. So you effectively have a little corner at the side. So again, I'm doing it halfway down, just as a little line. So I just wanted to make a line there and a line there halfway across. Great. So our next step is to take this corner, and we're going to fold the corner down so it touches that line from that corner. This is how we're making our equilateral triangle. And I really hadn't realised just how much spring is about equilateral triangles. Turns out irises. Somebody was sharing some iris pictures. Of course, irises. Snowdrops, perfect triangles. Crocuses are absolutely perfect equilateral triangles as well. So whilst I myself was thinking of a spike protein, which I find incredibly beautiful, others can think of spring. It's up to you what you'd like to think of, but it's all about beauty in nature. Again, from that top corner, we're going to take this corner, and bring it up to that line that you've made. And you've got to kind of move it around until you get right up through that corner, like so. So I wonder actually if we almost do all our 4 triangles now. I know it's a bit of a faff, but it's often easier to do things all together. It's always a bit tricky. So I'm going to take my time there, like so, and then that final line, I'm turning it round, lifting that bottom corner up, and doing it so it lines up. Obviously, keeping that in the middle, and inside there is your triangle. I mean, I suppose you could rip it, but to be honest, by this point, I would use scissors to keep it sharp. There we go. Maybe I'll cut that here while we're here, and then I think we'll make the other triangles at the same point. Sorry, it's a bit of preparation first, isn't it, before we can get going. Just reading about another protein on the outside of the virus has a nice pentagon symmetry. It'll be like another piece of origami. So lots of sort of at the molecular protein level, you often get little pieces that interlock into each other. So obviously, although the origami touches on what's inside us, which I find rather fascinating. There we go. So I've got one equilateral triangle. I reckon, sorry, a bit more preparation. Let's make some more while we're there. So again, fold halfway, partial the other way. I usually find it's good to do a few of the same things at the same time. least that's how I approach modular. So I'm going to do one, and with the other, who might like to join me in this. Hopefully, and then this one. Okay, the same there and there. Obviously, it doesn't matter which way around. There we go. And again, we're going to take this corner, meet it there from that corner, and that will give you one side of your equilateral triangle. I'm afraid it does need a surface to, and a certain amount of patience in lining things up. I don't know how this is for you, Eric. There we go. Oh, thanks, honey. That's very kind. Yeah. So this corner and lining it up. So I'm looking forward to sharing the origami syringe, which I just came up with for my own fun because I was celebrating vaccines, and then it seemed to make other people smile. And to me, that's what origami is all about: finding something that makes you smile and wanting to pass that on, passing on the joy. Bottom corner, lifting it up. And of course, everything comes from origami, comes from Japan, and of course, in turn, from China, with the invention of paper. I mean, I see origami more as science, because in science, people make discoveries and pass it on, and that's how things evolve. There we go. And things become sort of traditional because they become so loved. That corner, the line, which in the same with science, it just becomes incorporated and evolves, as I suppose also like cookery too. People have passed on and changed things. That's it. The corner down to that line. Lots of concentration, isn't there, in doing these? Yeah, we're just putting in a bit of work first. There we go. Hopefully you're getting the hang of it. Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, that's amazing, Louis. Looking at the Nuffield. Yes, and actually a friend who would recently, well, a few months ago, thankfully she's healing, has had a broken bone, and she'd gone up to the Nuffield, and actually I'd left in the kind of entrance of part of the Nuffield, which is in Oxford, one of the hospitals for more orthopedics. And I've made a bunch of flowers of the traditional lilies, which is what I was originally taught by patients. And she asked me to pass it on. And actually, then I feel I'd left a big bunch of those flowers. And my friend, even though maybe it was a year later from when I made them, said they were still there. And she beamed and said, they're my friend Lizzie who've made those flowers. So maybe your mum, Louis, has seen those flowers. I hope so. I know lots of things obviously have had to be removed, but I guess if it's behind reception, then people aren't going to be touching and they're just looking. Yeah, that is quite wow, isn't it? And actually in the Nuffield, I was so inspiring. I was working last year as part of a project funded by the lottery, so we've applied a few times for a community grant. I'm going to cut off these edges. And there I was working with patients who've had strokes and MS and basically really struggling to move. And we were offering origami as a way of providing some support and rehabilitation. And I went along and I scattered lots of things that I've made and basically let the group just choose what they'd like to make. Of course, almost every time people go for the most complicated with the traditional lilies, and I wasn't going to put them off. And used a mixture of little clips. Actually, at that point, I was using clips to help as a second hand. But it turns out you can even do origami with one hand. I didn't realise that. I thought that was amazing. So it really inspired me, the attitude. I think quite often people say, I can't do something. And it's about attitude. A lot of it really is about attitude. If you're really keen and you really want to do something, you're really motivated, it's amazing what's possible. And this is for people who are really struggling to do much with their hands. So to be determined, I would like to make a beautiful flower too. And the sense of achievement, you'd never know there was anything wrong because there's such lovely beams and smiles and achievement and making amazing things. Yeah, it's a real shame not to be in hospitals. This is the reason I'm doing this all online at the moment, Louise, because I would normally be quietly in a ward with patients and with staff and try to weave my magic. But for now, we just have to do things remote. I'm trying to give some of the warmth I would, and it's for anybody who would like to join. There we go. Whew, lots of cutting there. Actually, I can just show you really briefly the bunches of flowers. We've done so far to make triangles, but we're going to get folding in just a second. Here are the flowers. So this bunch of flowers is from about 9 years old. And when I was first taught origami, I didn't really do much origami as a child. I can't really remember doing that. I'd make up my own thing. But this was from the patient, the hospital I work, QCH, who asked me to learn to make these flowers. And so she showed me how to make the stems. That was how she would do it. Bit of glue and scissors there, but lovely. And she would make these to say thank you to healthcare staff and asked me to learn and pass on. Yeah. So there's a similar bunch of flowers at the Nuffield. If your mum looks and go, that's who made them. Yeah, they're really nice. Yeah. So we've got maybe 4 triangles. Well, chatting away, and we're going to start with the simplest fold. Are you all ready to start folding from the triangles? Great. Got to have a go at making a bunch, definitely. There is a video that I did a while back, how to make the flowers. So we're going to make this one first of all, which I think is the simplest. So I'm going to take the corner and fold them over. The flowers are great. I mean, I've actually, for my best friend who's in New Zealand, I was able to make a bunch of those lilies for her wedding. So it was really nice to send that through. Of course, they're fresh, they're light, they won't damage. They will live forever as long as you don't put water on them. Again, corner to corner. We're just doing a little halfway line, little kind of little nick there. There we go. And again, that corner to that corner. Like so. So all I've done is those halfway lines. We're going to do these 3 folds. So yeah, so I included in the Wheel of 10 actually Susanna Arashino's fold too. But I think because it was a little bit more open, probably people can see just how lovely it is. It's beautiful. But actually, if you play around with the paper, I think, with time you'd find all these folds, but it probably will be endless as to what you can find. Of course, origami is like that. But I sat there with 10 pieces of paper, determined that I'd find 10 different things, and I've done that with 19, so I might give myself another 10 to do, just for my own exercise, really. So take the corner and bring it up to that little line you've made. Just more triangles, really. There we go. And then again the bottom, and bringing it up to that line. Hopefully you're finding the same thing for yours as well. A bit of folding together. And again, corner, bringing it up. Hopefully you can see clearly. Hopefully you're getting the hang of it. I mean, the thing that I love about origami is that sense of discovery. Even though you're often treading in the paths that others have trodden and found things, and they've been kind enough to share it, it's also your discovery too. I think that sense of achievement comes because you're having to understand, you're having to figure it out, and that's always a big achievement. There we go. Lovely. So I hope that's worked. Nice little division of triangles there. And of course it will all fold up into one triangle as well. Great. Happy? Okay. So this first one is it's a really simple fold. It's almost like just bending back halfway along each of these sides. Let me see if I can explain. I've realised when if I attempt to teach something that I found, I'm a lot less good at explaining it because I'm not following from anybody else, so it makes it harder in some ways. So we're going to if you take one of these folded inwards, and just take the side and fold it up so that it lines up. Oh, I really can't think of the words at the moment. There we go. So I took the side, brought it back. That's great. So you've done one side already, and you're basically doing the same on each side. So maybe you want to sort of open them up. There we go. So you basically need to do it so it's always going round in one way. So this end is wider, so it needs to be this end that's wider and this end narrower. So I'm bringing it in and I'm going to make sure that this end at the top is narrow. So I'm doing it the same way round each time because otherwise those ends will sort of clash. It's very abstract, so I find it a little bit hard to put to words. Hopefully you're getting the idea. Again, it's a discovery in your own hands and your own brain, isn't it? There we go. So you can see so far that wider bit, that wider bit. So the next side, again, as it would come in, I need this end to be narrow, this end to be wide. So bringing it in. Yeah, it's really strange. I really do feel when I'm trying to explain something that I figured out myself, I'm very bad at putting it into words. I don't know why. I'm actually very, very visual, so I tend to just go, look, like this. But hopefully, when you've got all three, see each time it's the wider bit. It's almost like turning, and then you can get them so that they interlock. Again, it's your discovery as you put it together, and it will close up nicely. It's just a lovely shape. I love that little shape that you can see inwards. So I ended up doing one. I coloured it in, made me think of a little crocus. Has that worked for you? That was a simple one. But hopefully it'll get easier. Let's see. Are you ready for another one? I can't hear you. It's probably all those hands are busy. Those fingers. So it'll be, yeah, you're okay? Yeah, did it work? But yeah, towards the end, I'll encourage you. Explore, see what happens for you because you'll find new things. I found it very liberating as triangle. I've actually found often I've done a projects on the beauty. Oh, that looks nice together. Beauty of viruses. There's so much sort of symmetry in them. There's something so disruptive. It's also very good for being creative, I think. Right, my next equilateral triangle, since I've done all the folding already. So again, we're doing a halfway line on each of the sides. So just bringing one corner to the other corner. There we go. A real formal, yes. Yeah, I agree. Well, it was very interesting. Recently, I was asked if I could create some videos for a charity that works with young people with visual impairments. And of course, I thought of an amazing woman who's in the British Origami Society who is visually impaired, who does amazing folds. And it was again, it's a bit like I was mentioning about patients who've maybe had strokes or MS struggling to move or only got one hand to use. You'd think that would make it so ridiculously impossible, but it is about a positive mindset. And there is so much you can do. And of course, this is all about form and shape. And actually, I've encouraged other patients who maybe can't see so well that actually they can feel it. There's a lot more that you can do than you'd think. But it's definitely hard with videos because obviously a video is not going to work unless you describe it very well in words. So I found that very difficult, actually. I don't naturally explain in words. I am very visual about it. So again, this sort of the halfway line along this wide edge, I'm trying to think in those terms. I find it very hard work on my brain. Bottom point, bring it up to that middle halfway point. But it's very, very good to be reminded as to, obviously, you cannot, we all experience the world in different ways, and to try and be more accessible as well. But I definitely can't explain that level of detail all the time. Extremely impressive to be doing this with visual impairments, but it sounds as if there's quite a few people across the world who do that, which is just brilliant because it's all tactile, it's all structural, it's all about understanding, and it's something wonderful you can do at home, isn't it? Again, bottom point, bring it up to the middle, halfway line. Okay, just dividing it up. That's it. Yeah. For me, I found videos is how I've learned. I mean, it was only in the past couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years, finding the British Origami Society. I didn't even know there was such a society. I was just learning from YouTube videos and from sharing with patients. And so many people there would remember doing origami as children and would share their planes that they always learned. So it's part of our culture, whether you're obviously in a society or not. Yeah. So, but I've learned from YouTube videos, and I think it's because naturally it's something that you learn and you pass on to others through teaching. So the drawings are really valuable. But I find myself quite hard work, but somehow my brain doesn't think so easily in that way. But that's okay because I can have sympathy towards others who also struggle, which is most people. Actually, most people say that they felt quite stupid looking at books because they feel they can't do it. So I see it as representing time together, really, the origami. Okay, so we've got this little triangle which can fold up. All these triangles can fold up on themselves. That's it. So we're again going to go and turn each of these almost petals, and we're going to do a fold from the bottom corner, again halfway across, but actually just up to the halfway point, and the same here. So we're going to do a fold one direction and then the other direction, and then we'll be able to squeeze and make a little point from that. I think it's what's called a rabbit's ear fold, which makes sense actually, doesn't it? Oh, is that? Yeah. Well, who needs formal? I think, origami, I can understand it, but yeah, formal maybe is also taking it quite seriously, or is ultimately about being playful, but people vary on that. So I folded one way, and I'm going to about halfway point, and I'll do the same then from the other end. Oh, well done, Deborah. You'll catch up. Sorry, because we actually made all the triangles first of all. Have you got any triangles? It's going to be a bit tricky to catch up without triangles. But it is all recorded, and I've also made a video already, so you will be able to get there. So can you see I did a fold one end and then the other end? And it means then you should be able to gently squeeze and start to develop a little line which will join up with that top bit of the triangle. Just also kind of sculptural, isn't it? Lovely. And then that means you can just fold it down. So yes, that's a rabbit ear fold. And that, most of the names I don't remember, but rabbit ear, that makes complete sense to me. So it goes into my brain, whereas other ones don't really. There we go. So we're going to do this in turn on each of the sides. So again, this has been, I folded it in, and I'll just keep that out of the way for now. And again, I'm going to, hopefully you're discovering this too, I'm going to fold this halfway across up to that midpoint, and then the same the other way around. So it's taking this, folding it down. But I thoroughly recommend playing with a triangle after this. Just Yeah, but it's your little, yeah, like a little puzzle, really. And I guess what I love about this is it feels like it's bigger than you. It's this, I guess, about maths and geometry and actually, although I am a scientist, I can't say that I found maths easy at school. I really didn't. Not natural. So I'm quite surprised that I'm doing something here which is, I suppose, quite mathematical, but it's all in a visual way. And of course, rather wonderful to maybe something that you found a bit hard at school to then go, oh, wow, I'm suddenly spotting equilateral triangles in nature. How exciting. Again, I'm sort of squeezing it so it will go up through that point. Again, I find just all this rather beautiful. It's kind of paper sculpture, really, isn't it? That's it. When it's squeezed like that, you can push it down to one side. That's it. Open it up. I've got one more side there. Again, the same thing. I'm going to bring it to one side. So we'll do what I showed as my red fold, first of all, which is by far the most popular. I think people like, oh, bunny. Yeah. Huh. People by far like this, which I guess it's because it all comes together nicely. It will all come together. I know it may not feel like it at the moment. So, I mean, a lot of these classic folds will then lead you to particular designs. So people have found these folds and you'll, again, you can see there's a little triangle there and I'm trying to move towards that point. Oh, that's interesting, honey. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, it's architecture, isn't it? Engineering, architecture, and yet paper something we've all got at home, so it's great. Folding these inwards, and you've got these little flaps. You might. I've been doing it to the camera. It's a bit harder. I'm going to try to get these a little bit more exact. Exactness usually really does help a lot. But I mean, maybe with some of the animals, actually, it's good not being so exact. It can have a bit more personality and character. But with something like this, which is quite mathematical, then being exact's probably a good thing. But I think it's also helpful to our minds, because when things are a bit out of our control, which they are very much during this time, again, it's helpful. Definitely goes a bit wobbly when I can't see what I'm doing. No excuses. There we go. How are you doing? Oh, actually, I don't know. Wimbledon folding roof. Oh, I don't think I've ever looked. I'm really not into sports. I really don't look. I'm going to have to look that up. Develop with origami, really? Oh, wow, Eric. You make me interested in everything. You are a very knowledgeable guy. Right. So we've got these little flaps. I've tried to, again, keep them in a little circle so that they're all pointing the same way round. Can you see? And to make so we're going to make this one. Great. So we're going to take one of these flaps. I think it's good to have them pointing the same way round because we'll do the same thing on each one. So what did I do? I'm going to have to point this down. Again, I've practiced less because it's my own, I suppose. So here, point that we've got, I'm then going to change it at an angle. Sorry. So one of these sides, I'm then going to fold the point so that it lines up. This is how I did it. Let me just see. So the point from one side, I brought it down and I lined up along that middle line. That's it. I think that's it. Yep. And I'm going to do that on each side in the same way. So again, I'm taking the point and lining up in a straight line. And again, this was just something I found, but it does look surprisingly complex when it does come together, like a nice little wheel or a knot. Things are in the way, you can always bring them back. Again, the side, taking this and bringing it down in a straight line, like so. I hope this, I may have invented another one. Let's see whether this works. I hope it does. Right. Have you managed to fold those in there? I thought it was simple, but I don't know whether it is now. So I folded one in. Next one. So I'm just going one to the other. So I'm going to push that one down. Next one, push that down. And then this third one, oh, sorry, with that flap down. As I said, I'm not as good with it, my own one. Pushing that down. Yes, just tucking one over the other. And then the final one, then you're going to want to tuck underneath there. So you're going to have to just slide it round and push it into that gap. I think that's how I did it. Slightly wondering now. There we go. So it's kind of tucking one down, the next one, and then the third one you just tuck into whatever little gap you can find there. And it sort of came down to looking quite simple. There we go. It's quite a nice shape. So that was by far the most popular fold that I shared there. Oh, how are you doing? It's got, wow, it's been quite a workout, hasn't it? We've got one more to do. And then after that, I'm going to leave me homework, which is to have a play yourself. See what you find. Right, one more triangle. Same thing again. Halfway point, halfway point, halfway point. And hopefully it all gets easier. And I have recorded a video already as well. So if ever you're finding you got left behind, I don't want to do that to you, but if that happens, you can go back. Look on the YouTube channel. That's it. I wouldn't be doing this unless it was for lockdown. I don't naturally go on camera. There we go. So bottom point, bring it up to the top. But you know what, I thought early on I either give up with what I'm doing or I just find a way, which is the only way that we've all been able to get through this, isn't it? It's just doing our best and having to adapt and having to change. Bottom point up to the top. And again, I come back to origami. I always think that it's about that positive attitude, trying something new. How do you try something new? Obviously, there's that frustration, that irritation when you don't know what you're doing. You feel a bit stupid. How do you overcome that? And I think it's about being playful, being kind to yourself. Just, you know what, even if things aren't working, maybe you're making something new. And that's good as well. So I think just being really patient and kind in yourself is part of self-care and that good attitude. Right, what are we making? We're making this one here, which is very similar to the previous one, actually. So it's the same fold. So each time we're again going to do that folding from one corner to the middle line, folding from that corner to make that triangle and pushing them together to make a little spike. And then after that, it's pretty simple. So hopefully this doesn't feel too difficult. Hope I'm not going too fast. It's hard to tell. We could be here for hours if we do for 19 variants. The hexagonal one I found when I thought I was doing the same one again, I found I'd done something completely different, which is great. Chance is a wonderful thing. You find you doing things differently. So again, I've done that triangle, squeezing together. again, it's made that little rabbit's ear, which does make sense. And you can push that down and line that up. It won't take long at all to make the one that we're doing once you've done that. Hopefully, again, it feels easier the second time because you're doing the same kind of fold. Definitely interesting trying to do this onto a camera. I have to move it down so I can see what I'm doing. Definitely a bit longer than our usual half hour, isn't it? I suppose it is because we're doing 3. So bring it in. Again, that triangle shape. And yeah, next time you go outdoors, I hope you can find some crocuses or snowdrops and look at that lovely 3-fold symmetry. Or Stephen, if you like the hexagons, of course, the daffodils. Hexagons. I hadn't really thought in these terms before. Again, I've made that little triangle, squeezing those points together, comes together as a little point, pushing that down, same thing again. Amazing how busy this can keep you, isn't it? But actually, thankfully, the folds that people chose were some of the simplest, believe it or not, which was quite good. I think naturally we can go towards a strong and simple and bold, which I think is very telling. There we go. So again, you've got these little points. If you make sure they're all going round again in a little circle, so that way you've got everything pointing the right direction. So mine's going round like this. That's it. Okay, so to make these little points sticking out is quite simple, actually. She says, again, I'm going to have to direct camera down. But these little points, actually, if you just fold them back and forth, just so it's a nice strong base to it, and then it's putting your finger inside that bunny ear. It's not really a bunny. Otherwise, that wouldn't be appropriate, would it? Oh gosh, sorry, on the outside. On the outside. And simply pushing it down, she says, but you have to really get your finger in there. If anything, you might almost, if you've got something like not quite a pencil, but it's quite hard to get your finger properly in there. I have actually got a lovely sculpture which I bought from Nick Robinson, actually, apparently a German carver who makes these lovely carved pieces. Can you see? I've sort of just tried to press it down, and they do vary a little bit as to their position. I hope not finding it too tricky at home. Again, you've got this, so you might use a pencil, but then that could end up drawing on it, I suppose. Again, back and forth a bit, so it's a nice strong fold at the base of it. Putting that in and then squeezing it, squashing it down. And I guess trying to make it quite wide. It's kind of like a flower, isn't it, too? Like so. It's also like a little Star of David too, isn't it? Okay, I've used a little pushing that in there because it is quite fiddly by now. Squashing it down. What did I thought to show? And yeah, it can be a little bit asymmetrical, so just keep playing until you're sort of happy with the shape before squashing down. There we go. So hopefully that's worked. Yeah, they were the simple ones. I had a go at colouring this in. I thought it was rather lovely. So I did the yellow and the orange inside. Just reminded me of crocus and green on the back. So it feels like a little bud opening. So your fourth triangle Play with it. See what happens. I have found so many. I'm just going to show you a few more. So this was one which I just thought was so fun that a hexagon appeared. Oh, excellent. This one, look at this. So these are all variants, all from a triangle like you have. Yeah, just enjoying these structures and forms. So this one, look at this. This is different. So just try playing, see what emerges in your hands. Just try different folds, and it's just about keeping them the same, I guess, on all three sides. I've found more and more varied, strange things. I don't know what it's called, Deborah. It has been carved for origami. Someone said it's like a magic wand. It really is. It feels so beautiful. I bought a couple actually. If you look up Nick Robinson, he may still be selling some of these. Apparently they're from little offshoots, so kind of spare cuts of wood, and then he's carved them down. There's some in different colors. This is just so lovely and elegant. It didn't look that impressive as a photograph, but it feels so nice. It's such a pleasure to use. I use it when I'm doing fiddly little things. Become like a little pot. These are just some extra ones that I played with. Yeah, isn't it amazing the things you can do with this? Oh, this one's a good one too. Yay! So I bet you'll find some more, and if you do and you'd like to share any, please do. There's someone I think in Japan who shared a lovely video folding in a very different way, which just totally blew my mind. So it's folding bones. Oh yeah, this is a wood one. I like the wood, but plastic is also that warm feel. I guess you could also make it out of bone too, couldn't you? That would also work potentially. Yeah, so if you'd like to share any, hashtag origami variants, I'm sharing them. I hope other people might join me. And the idea is actually to pass them on. Find something and pass it on. Let it spread, let it go viral. I know my own strange weirdness that I find science interesting. Enter with paintbrush, yes. But if you think, isn't that a beautiful thing? And that's the virus that none of us likes, but you can find beauty in it all. And actually, well, to me, I find that quite comforting. It's that kind of fascination science that has brought us to the hope and to vaccines and to a better place. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you can have a bit more of an explore with your amazing. I keep on having pots of 10 different variants. What am I going to find next? I don't know. Give yourself some time and the time to play, most of all. I hope you enjoy it. Hope you'll have as much fun with it as I have. Something a bit different. Thanks ever so much, everyone. I'm wishing you all a good week. And yeah, take care, keep safe, keep well, keep looking after yourselves, keep being kind to each other as well. Take care. Lovely to see you as it was. Stephen, Deborah, Honey, Eric, so many people. Thank you. Penny, thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, you like the third one the most as well, because I found it quite variable when you press it down. That's interesting. Yeah, it's like a flower as well, isn't it? Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.